Joining us now, live from Northern Virginia, Jeannemarie Davis. Jeannemarie, former Republican senator, Northern Virginia, former candidate on the Republican side for lieutenant governor, wife of my good friend Tom Davis. And Jeannemarie, good to have you back.
Well, thank you.
Always a pleasure, Jeannemarie. So, listen, we get the new Trump leadership team out, and you're one of the members on it. Very impressive. After all this is going on, and we know that Trump is getting hammered in Northern Virginia, right? There's no question.
Right.
Getting hammered. Why is Jeannemarie Davis now at the final hour joining ranks in Northern Virginia with Trump?
Well, my joining ranks with Trump is not a final hour decision. I've been supporting him since he won the nomination. And for several reasons. I think many people are aware that my husband chaired John Kasich's campaign in Virginia during primary season, and we were strong supporters of him. He had served in Congress with Tom, and we know him well. But once the convention was passed and Donald Trump was our nominee, I've always thought it's important to stick with the team. We don't always have the nominee that we would like to have, but he's our Republican nominee. And I think for those that have Republicans who don't feel comfortable with him, who have decided, that they're not going to support him, I think it's a huge mistake. Hillary, we both know the positives and negatives of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I am very frightened of Hillary becoming president of this country. I think that what is going on now in the media is absolutely ridiculous. They have found something to hitch their wagon to, talking endlessly about Donald Trump's issues with women, and yet these are the very same people, the ones that are going after him so strongly in the media in particular, are the same ones that defended Bill Clinton, when he had his abuse of power in the Oval Office, which just ranks of hubris to me. But I think that for those that those that are Republicans or even independents that feel uncomfortable with Donald Trump for personal reasons, I think they need to think about what a Hillary Clinton administration is going to represent for all Americans. And the first thing we need to look at is the regulatory environment. I mean, we've had 8 years with Barack Obama, who has appointed people to be administrators for the FCC and the EPA and the SEC and the FEC and secretaries of education and heads of the IRS. And you look at how they've behaved and the regulations they've put into place that have really harmed our economy. They've harmed the ability of companies and individuals to do business. And I think it's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better under a Clinton administration. And secondly, I think the Supreme Court, and not just the Supreme Court, but all of the courts. When the administration is appointing the judges, and I think it's going to be difficult for Republicans in the next administration to deny placing a Supreme Court justice on the bench to replace Justice Scalia, because they have been talking so much about, we need to wait till the next administration. But people need to keep in mind these Supreme Court justices, they sit on the bench for life. And so a president can be gone in 4 years, but that Supreme Court justice stays forever. And what we have been witnessing, not just on the federal level, but on the state level as well, is that judges they're legislating from the bench now. They're not just ruling based on whether the issue before them is constitutional or not. They're using their biases and their political leanings to make decisions, and they use the Constitution as a cover, I think, or when you read their rulings and the determinations they made, they're also very political. And the fact that judge, that justice, sits on that court for the rest of their lives, if that justice is 52 years old, you're going to see that person in there for 35, 40 more years. So I think that Republicans that are concerned about Donald Trump as president need to think about what the long-term macro impact will be to this nation if Hillary Clinton becomes president.
Well, you know what, Jeannemarie, I like what you said a little bit earlier about the fact that as soon as Trump became the nominee, that you backed him, you believe in backing the Republican nominee. And I just want to remind our listeners that Jeannemarie Davis, who's on with us now, former state senator from Northern Virginia, Republican, ran a very spirited campaign for lieutenant governor in 2013 and was defeated in that convention by E.W. Jackson and immediately came out in favor of V.W., sent him a check and campaigned for him. Many other Republicans abandoned him. I was not particularly favorable to his campaign, so I'm in that category. But Jeannemarie, no question about it. I mean, words are things, and you definitely stuck with E.W. from day one. You stuck with the entire ticket, actually, as soon as that nomination was over. A lot of other people didn't quite get there as fast. So what you're saying is exactly accurate. I've seen it with my own eyes, and you're certainly very loyal to that. How does Trump win moderate Republican voters in Northern Virginia that he seems to be losing in droves?
Well, I think it's difficult. As a matter of fact, when I ran for lieutenant governor and I was traveling around the Commonwealth, I did talk quite a bit about the type of candidate that you need to have on the ticket in order to help moderates and even some soft Democrats vote for Republican candidates in Northern Virginia. And one of the montages that you were talking about, or that was playing while I was listening before you had me come on and start speaking, I wrote some notes about some of the things that Hillary Clinton had said, and some of the things that you said leading up to all of this. And that is, I think that I don't think people like Hillary Clinton either. I think you look at the negatives for both of them, they're very high. The question is, will people come out to vote? And I noticed that one of the things that Hillary said in her montage was people want to turn her away. I think that the Clinton campaign and Democrats are very concerned that people just won't vote in this election because they don't like either candidate. And I was talking to a friend, he's been a friend of ours for years, who's a Democrat, and he said to me, people don't like Hillary Clinton. So I think that this election is going to come down to turnout, and I think that a lot of moderates are already, and will be even more so, because this election, this campaign on both sides is so negative to the nth degree. I've never seen such negativity. Neither of these candidates talk about what they're going to do should they become president. They just keep going after and attacking each other on a personal basis. But I think it's going to turn people off. I think they're just not going to vote. So I think that that's going to play a role. I think Virginia's tough for Donald Trump. He doesn't need to win Virginia to win the presidency. He has to win Ohio. He probably has to win Florida. He's holding his own on that. Tom feels very strongly, he has all along, that Donald Trump is under polling, which I think is something that you mentioned just before you had me come on and start chatting with you. I think he is under polling. I think people are afraid to say they're voting for Donald Trump because they don't want to be judged with all that the media has been going on and on about. In Northern Virginia, you see Clinton signs in yards. You see no Trump signs. Well, you see a few. Up around where I live, there's one or two. But you don't see very many Trump signs in yards. And so that's indicative that folks, and yet I know a lot of people who are voting for Donald Trump. So I think people are afraid to put the bumper sticker on their car. They're afraid to put the sign in their yard, but they're going to go in and vote for Donald Trump in November.
So what do you think, in talking to your husband, Tom, who's a very savvy political analyst, no question, and I have a lot of respect for your husband. As you know, he's on my show often, and we do the roundtable with him in Northern Virginia, which, by the way, is coming up next week, I believe. So what does Tom think about this whole thing? We think there's like a 3 or a 4%, just a Trump undervote. How we have that number, Jeannemarie, comes from the primaries. When we were running the primaries for Trump in the open primaries, not the closed, he would consistently get 4% over what we thought we had. It would just pop up from nowhere.
Right.
How accurate do you think that is?
I'm not a good judge of what percentage that under polling is for Donald Trump, but I'm sure it's several percentage points, which could make the difference. And keep in mind, though, that we're talking about electoral votes too, and I know you know this. Tom feels very strongly that Trump, as much as the Clinton campaign and the Democrats will say, well, she could win all 50 states, he knows that Donald Trump wins 18 states right off the bat. Mm-hmm. There are just 18 solid red states that he's going to win. I think for the others, it really comes down to turnout. Will minorities vote to the same degree for Hillary Clinton as they did for Barack Obama? No, they won't. They will not be incentivized to come out and vote for her as compared to when Barack Obama was on the ticket. So, of course, that's a net gain for Republicans. I think that a lot of this is those Republicans just have got to come out to vote, and they cannot come out and vote for Gary Johnson. They have to understand that a vote for Gary Johnson is a vote for Hillary Clinton, because it just takes those few percentage points away from Donald Trump that could be Donald Trump's. And I just fear for what this country will be like with another 4 years of a Democratic president, but Hillary Clinton in particular. I think we've seen with her as Secretary of State what the result is from a foreign relations impact. I mean, Russia doesn't respect us. Most Middle East countries don't respect us. The most dangerous countries in the world have no respect for our country, and it's due to a lack of leadership. And she was part of those policies as Secretary of State, so I only see us going from bad to worse. And I think people need to think about their own safety and security when they go out to vote in November. And if it means holding your nose and voting for Donald Trump, then do it. A vote for Gary Johnson is a vote for Hillary Clinton.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Well, first of all, I wouldn't vote for Johnson if he was the last candidate on earth, because God doesn't even know what his foreign policy positions are. So that, to me, I'm done with that. Do you think right now that Trump can win this race?
Yes, I do. And Tom would say he does, too. He doesn't help himself. I think he needs to stop tweeting, and I think that he needs to learn to filter. He has a tendency to have a thought pop in his head, and it comes right out of his mouth. And I think if he can become more disciplined, particularly in this upcoming debate, I think that the upcoming debate is important for him. He needs to show himself as presidential. He needs to show himself to be someone that people can leave that debate feeling like, you know what, I've misjudged him. He does have what it takes to be presidential. I think he needs to work very hard not to allow Hillary Clinton to press his buttons, get under his skin. He did much better, I thought, in the town hall meeting in that regard, and he did a great job, talking about policy. And I will say this with the debates. Any one of us who served in elected office remembers when the first one or two times that we debated, none of us were that great. It is a skill that you learn, and I can see the difference. I saw the difference between the first and the second, and I hope we'll see some growth, and we'll see an even greater discipline and growth in this third debate. But I think if he carries himself off as presidential, I think he needs to be less personal. I also think that as the Democrats and the media go on and on and on about women that are coming out, none of which has been substantiated, he needs to let it go. One of the things that a seasoned elected official and campaigner come to understand is the expectation that the other side is going to try to hit you in the gut. And the best thing you can do is not react to it, because when you react to it, you make it a bigger story than it really is. So I think he has to work hard to stop reacting at all of this and just keep on message and keep focusing on talking about policies, the state of this country, and what he's going to do to move us forward and to reverse so many of the unfortunate situations we find ourselves in after 8 years of Barack Obama as president. And if he can do all of that, then I think that he does have a chance. As I said earlier, nobody likes Hillary Clinton. Her negatives are very high. Trump's negatives are high. And if we start helping people focus on what I talked about earlier, our regulatory environment, Supreme Court justices being nominated, where we stand in the country with Putin and with Iran, and why we're where we are and whose policies have brought us to that place, then I think people will start focusing on voting not based on emotions and personality, but they will focus on voting looking forward and asking themselves, who's going to take us even further back and put us in a position where our national security is even worse than it is today, if that's even possible, rather than who said what. So I think that he has to show them he can be presidential in this debate, and I think we have to work towards helping people understand that they need to think about the long-term ramifications of who our next president is, not just look forward to the next couple of years and, can I stand watching them give a speech, and looking at this emotionally and personally. They've got to think about it rationally and logically
All
as
right,
they decide
Jeannemarie
who to
Davis,
vote for.
I'm out of time. I want to thank Jeannemarie Davis for being with us. Ran for Lieutenant Governor, Republican 2013, former state senator. Could Jeannemarie Davis be running for statewide office again
No.
in 2017? It's a primary. What do you think?
No. I think those days are behind me.
No Jeannemarie Davis in 2017. Okay, well, depressing. Jeannemarie, always great to have you with us. Thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
time and your
Thanks
insight.
for having me.
We'll have you back. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth.